Dania Aresi is a Middle East specialist and program head and senior analyst at the New Lines Institute. She is also an assistant adjunct professor at Georgetown University, and she is in Washington. Dania, thank you so much for being here. This pause that we have seen in strikes between the U.S. and Iran, do you think that this is the beginning of a new round of mediation that ultimately leads back to a deal, or do you think that this is more likely to be the calm before the storm?
Thank you very much for having me today. I think the pause that we have seen is really a signal that the hard power policy tool the United States has been using significantly with that war has really not been continued to be an effective policy tool to pressure Iran to come back to the table. I think the United States is acknowledging this, and therefore we learned that the president on Friday decided to hold on the strikes of Hormuz. And I think also we are going to be expecting this week, since this hard power or like a military operations is no longer pressuring Iranians to or making any effect on the Iranians to come to the tables. I think this week we're probably going to be seeing Iran's and also the other mediators in the regions. I'm talking about Oman and Qatar and Pakistan will probably start to engage with both actors on a negotiation with the United States. And it's important to note here that also Prime Minister Netanyahu will be in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday to also take part indirectly with those negotiations on how this negotiation will go. So the short answer to the questions, I think the ineffective policy tool of military operation is losing its power, and hence why the president is seen to be more likely right now to engage more in the diplomacy, and Iranians also likely to engage in a diplomatic attempt to hopefully reach a new round of a deal or a new round of negotiations.
Look, the Iranians always put out sort of a hard front. They give no outward indication that the military action is having any kind of an impact. But surely between that and the blockade of Iranian oil, that must have got them thinking that talks are a good idea, because they are also engaging with Washington. Is that a fair assessment?
That's an absolutely fair assessment. We do need to note something important here, that the Iranian regimes and the whole IRGC really depend on a strong economy. The fact that the United States implemented the blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, it was primarily to hurt the Iranian economy. And if the Iranian economy got hurt, essentially you are losing and you're undermining the existence and the whole regime of IRGC. In addition to the blockade, which was a soft power used by the administrations, also the U.S. administration has attacked a lot of the Iranians' infrastructures and power systems. So this is all to undermine the Iranian economy and, of course, push them to come to the table and have negotiations. So the point there, absolutely to your questions, I think both factors, the hard power and the soft power policy tools, were used by the United States extensively, and they lost the power that they can continue to, or the impact that they can actually produce on their adversary, and here it's Iran. And that is why we're seeing the Iranians and the Americans seems to be more open right now for diplomatic engagements or to talk on the table. At least this is what we've heard from the Americans for now.
The Iranians have made pretty clear that this war cannot end unless the Israelis withdraw from Lebanese territory. You mentioned already the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will be in Washington this week, I think within the next day. What do you think that President Trump is likely going to be saying to Benjamin Netanyahu?
I think we have to note something important here. I think Iran is always trying to control and take back Lebanon and control the sovereignty of Lebanon. The visit of the president of Lebanon last week was a firm assurance that the Lebanese sovereignty, the Lebanese affairs, the politics of Lebanon is not a matter of Iran. It's the matter of the Lebanese government, and the sovereignty, it's the matter of the Lebanese government. And I think President Trump, he's going to be very clear with Netanyahu on Tuesday, confirming that the Israeli government has to comply with the framework that the Lebanese government signed with them. And what does that mean? That means the Israeli government has to withdraw from the pilot zones that are agreed on with the Lebanese governments. So far, the Israelis have been cooperative. We've seen cooperations, and they have already withdrawn from multiple zones. But we want to see much more cooperations and respect for the agreement that was signed. And I'm saying this because the Israelis have a history of violating a lot of the agreements and the frameworks and the ceasefires that they signed. And so I think the Trump administration has the power and has the leverage on the Israelis to continue doing that work. I think another important element that we have to note about it here is the shared intelligence. United States is being here the mediator And so Israel has a lot of intelligence information on where Hezbollah is. And I think United States and President Trump will be open to work as a mediator or the messengers between the intelligence of Israel to Lebanon through United States. I think this is something they talked about it last week, the president of Lebanon and the president of the United States during their meeting. And this is something the president of the United States right now has an opportunity to reassure the Israelis that you need to share what kind of intelligence information you have with the Lebanese government so they can finish the job, which is the demilitarizing and, Hezbollah from Lebanon. I think those are the key points.
You mentioned the pilot zones. It seems like kind of a low bar. There have been 3 of these pilot zones. 2 of them, the Israelis were not even physically present with boots on the ground in. So the Israelis have physically withdrawn from one of those pilot zones, but they've also continued to demolish, to bomb houses in southern Lebanon. I mean, do you think that it is likely, even if Donald Trump says to the Israelis, you got to get out of Lebanon, do you think that it's likely that they'll go?
Absolutely. I think the Trump administrations have a lot of power, particularly on the Benjamin Netanyahu. Last call between Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the president, literally the president said, Benjamin Netanyahu knows who's the boss. So we have to understand how much power and influence one actor has against the other. And the visit of President of Lebanon last week played a very important role in reassuring to the United States that Lebanon stands to comply with the framework. We are standing with the full government and full government sovereignty. And I think Netanyahu will have a very serious conversations with Trump about the importance of complying with the framework. And we've seen this happening before. I want to call one example here about this. Benjamin Netanyahu threatened Lebanon during the last 2-3 months about bombing Beirut. He was going to bomb Beirut, and we've seen a wave of refugees leaving Beirut because of the bombs that he was threatening them. And President Trump intervened immediately and called Prime Minister Netanyahu to stop this attempt to bomb Beirut. That was during the talk with the Iranians. We all remember that. And he had the direct call with them, and he said, as per President Trump's words, Netanyahu knows who's the boss. So this is to all say that there is a power and leverage one person has against the other. And President Trump already made commitments about supporting Lebanon, supporting the Lebanese armed forces. Even he declared direct flight between Lebanon and the United States. All this to signal to Israel that you must comply with the framework. You can't continue doing what you're doing in North and South Lebanon. He even criticized the Israeli government and how they even conduct the military. He said, you don't need to destroy a whole buildings and a whole village to kill 1 or 2 persons from Hezbollah. So this is serious criticism direct to the Israeli government and to how they conduct themselves in a war. And that's something we as a Lebanese people, we are leveraging, we are capitalizing on it to benefit from that framework and gain back our villages and our towns.
All right. Well, it's nice to hear some optimism. Dania Aresi from the New Lines Institute. We appreciate you being here, ma'am. Thank you.